These contestants followed every rule in the book, and yet there was one major problem. The rules were theirs and not Gordon's. And that's exactly what happened when this contestant from Season 5 decided to play a little prank on her teammates. And what do you know? It backfired real bad. Let's quickly head over to the 5th episode where Andrea Heinle was assigned to the meat station. She cunningly hid some burnt Wellingtons, and when Gordon asked about them, this is what she had to say.
Firing a Wellington, the bottom's burning.
Damn! Did she just pretend like she was refiring them? The extent some of these chefs can go just to save their ass never fails to surprise me. Although Gordon is no fool, he soon discovered her secret stash of wasted meat. And how do you think he reacted? I can assure you that things are about to get heated.
They burn, I'm not quite sure
Watch,
why.
look.
And what was her comeback? All she could say was, I don't know how it burned. Wait, are you kidding me? Okay, let's get this out of the way right now. How does food burn, huh? Of course, because you turned the heat on way more than what was needed. You charred the hell out of it, gal. And what do you think Gordon should do next? He gathered the whole red team around to witness the glorious sight of the burnt Wellingtons. And to add to the drama, this is what he did next.
Oh dear. Fucking pile of shit.
I mean, bravo, man. You see the fear in Andrea's eyes? Gordon spared no mercy to wash his disappointment over her. Andrea was lucky for not being eliminated on the spot. You've seen that happening a ton of times now, haven't you? When it was time for her comeback, she declared that her Wellingtons needed an extra 4 minutes. But Gordon, always the sharp one, reminded her that she had already told the same thing before. Wow, Andrea, your timing skills are just impeccable. And your communication with Carol Scott on the fish station? That was a whole different level of craziness, and you can see it brewing right here.
Sweetie, I already told you I'm about 6 minutes out.
She would just throw out a number off the top of her head.
Now, Gordon was expecting the Wellingtons to be ready in time, but when the timing kept changing each and every time he asked, Gordon simply lost it.
He's pissed off because nothing's happening.
Yes, chef.
Now can you work as a team?
Yes, chef.
I hope that brought her back to her senses because it almost turned me deaf. And if Andrea giving Gordon a hard time wasn't enough, Colleen Cleek decided to join in on the madness when her dessert came back raw.
That's her.
What gets me is that someone who already had a massive lack of judgment had the audacity to call out Colleen.
You didn't know that's raw pastry with a raw pear?
Gordon was totally done for that day. I mean, just look at him.
Half hours of bull.
And Chef Ramsay.
After everything that went down, it was quite obvious for both the teams to be declared as joint losers. However, the red team walked away with the esteemed title of being the consolation best of the worst. Later, during the intense deliberations, Andrea finally admitted that she had given a terrible performance. Wow, what an understatement. She graciously told L.A. Limtiaco, the mastermind behind the nominations, that she won't resent her if she happened to choose Andrea. How noble, Andrea, how noble indeed. And finally, when the moment of truth arrived, just as expected, Andrea became LA's nominee for elimination, joining Jay Maxwell from the blue team. But fear not, folks, because Andrea had an ingenious plan. She wanted to return to the meat station and prove that she could run it. The confidence doesn't seem to die down. And guess what? Andrea survived the elimination. Because, you know, one stormy night totally doesn't matter when you have the unshakable belief that you're destined to win it all. Andrea was just lucky that she got away with lying. Those burnt Wellingtons were truly a disaster. However, there was this other contestant who took lying to a whole new level. Now, this person shamelessly managed to deceive Gordon right to his face and didn't even have the decency to feel a twinge of guilt about it. What happens to people when the competition gets tough? Do their brains get fried or something? The second episode of the 9th season had me thinking so. This time, things got really interesting in the Blue Kitchen during the dinner service. One of the contestants, Brendan Heavey, was in charge of the fish station. When he sent out his first appetizer, Chino Chang was nowhere to be found, and he couldn't even bother to communicate properly. And guess what? Gordon, who totally lost it, gave Chang a nice little lecture about it.
Yes, chef.
Chino reminds me of a chipmunk on meth. He's a little bit too hyperactive for me, and not all.
But wait, there's more. When Chang finally managed to send his appetizer, it came out burnt. Not once, but twice. Yep, you could say that it was burnt to a crisp. You have to see what happened next.
What is going on?
How's that for a fine dining experience, huh? But the fun didn't stop there. Chang finally got his act together and sent an appetizer that Gordon accepted. Gordon now urged the blue team to keep up the pace. And despite all the motivation, Gordon wasn't thrilled when he saw Hebe already ready with the sea bass order, while the rest of the team wasn't prepared at all. This happened because he goofed up on his communication. Hebe had failed to inform his teammates about his pace. Such great teamwork, right? Seeing the disorder in the kitchen, Gordon could only do this.
No, chef.
You've got to work as a team. Please.
Brendan, man, he jumped the gun. You know, he's too busy.
He kind of deserved it, didn't he? Fast forward a bit, and Gordon called for the next ticket, and Hebe had to get started on a fresh batch of sea bass. When the orders started rolling in, Gordon had a sneaky suspicion that Hebe might have pulled a fast one and sent out the same old sea bass he cooked earlier. Sneaky indeed. But would he? Cause that would be just disgusting. Gordon had to literally confront Hebe and ask him if he really made a fresh one. And this is what Hebe had to say.
Show me.
Yeah.
Another contestant who thought he could play around Ramsey. But guess what Gordon did? He demanded Hebe to show him the old sea bass he tossed in the trash, and did Hebe find it?
Are you lying to me, right? Because I'm going to stop this whole kitchen. I'm going to...
Just as I expected. Dude never even tossed it in there. So, how could he find it? You could see the blood literally drain from Hebe's face because, damn, he just got caught red-handed. Now, Gordon wasn't too happy about being lied to, and so he questioned Hebe once again.
A fresh one you cook, because I'm going to turn this fucking kitchen upside down.
Chef, yes.
Man, you gotta hand it to Gordon. He always knows how to make things interesting. Hebe, feeling the heat, finally came clean and confessed that, yep, the sea bass was indeed the old one. Dude wasn't left with any other option. And, well, what were you expecting? That Gordon would pat his back for his honest confession? It's just the opposite that happened.
Why?
Start a new bass.
Sorry.
Start a new bass. Stop. Everybody stop.
But hey, the show must go on, right? After Gordon told the blue team to start over from scratch, he had something totally different in mind for Hebe.
I'll send you out there and then. Let me tell you that.
Yes, chef.
In the end of this wild ride, Hebe and Chang found themselves nominated for elimination. And who had to pack their knives and go? You guessed it, Hebe. Turns out his arrogance and deceitful ways weren't exactly winning him any favors. Better luck next time, buddy. You see, Hebe couldn't get away with his lies, but at least he wasn't ready for a fist fight. The 9th episode of season 15 was a pretty rocky one. The red team had lost the dinner service once again, and Ariel Malone was the first nominee. No surprises there, right? But hold on. Jackie Fuchs was named the second nominee, and who saw that coming, huh? Kristen Barone, however, had an explanation to give. According to her, they nominated Fuchs because she wasn't progressing, and they were apparently tired of carrying her along. Well, things got so heated between Fuchs and Barone that Gordon actually called the entire team a hot mess. Now, Gordon decided to further spice things up. He decided to eliminate Joe Ritchie instead, since he couldn't handle the inconsistency of his performances. However, this turn of events is nothing compared to what happened back in the dorms. There was a whole different kind of drama unfolding out there when Fuchs decided to mock Barone. In an attempt to humiliate her, she asked Barone how it felt to be on the same level as her, someone who had just started cooking. Classic Fuchs, don't you think? For those of you who don't know, Fuchs had just 3 months of experience while Barone had a mind-blowing 7.5. What a joke, right? And Fuchs even had the audacity to declare herself the strongest chef in the red team. You know what that sounds like? Being delusional. So did you expect Barone to take it all kindly? Well, this is what happened next.
Only been cooking 3 months. You don't know what the you're doing. Everything about you is a sack of
Later on, when Fuchs had the nerve to ask Barone for her lighter, Barone refused and even threatened to hit her in the face because she took the lighter without her permission. Of course, Fuchs didn't let that slide and started taunting Barone. And just when we thought this couldn't get any more ridiculous, Fuchs did something totally unexpected.
hands up. Out of my face.
Hands on me.
This led to a massive argument between the two, with Fuchs again threatening Barone and even following through on her threats. After everything that went down, Barone finally had enough and stormed off the patio. Fuchs, being the master of mind games, claimed she was just playing with Barone's head because, you know, she couldn't strangle her. And then she dared to call Barone crazy and deranged. Deranged? The poor red team had to endure Fuchs and her disrespectful behavior for 2 more agonizing days. But fear not, justice was served in episode 15 when Fuchs was eliminated from the competition. Her inconsistency and delightful attitude were just too much for the judges to handle. Just like this contestant from Pennsylvania who thought it was a brilliant idea to stick his finger into the food that was meant to be served. And how do I feel about this? In one simple word, yuck. You see, the first episode is always about making an impression impression by showing off some killer culinary skills. Now, this dude who decided to make some risotto couldn't even stop bragging about his extensive experience in the field.
To be honest, it's not that tough.
And what do you know? His first attempt turned out to be a watery disaster.
Liquid, runny liquid. It's so runny you can't even spot the rice in there.
As the chaos continued in the kitchen from all four sides, Gaurav Navin, the risotto expert, tried to redeem himself with a refire. But oops, it was way too peppery. But nope, dude had a few claims to make.
I love black pepper in my risotto, just for the records.
I guess he forgot that the dish was for the customers and not for his personal pepper paradise. At the time, both the teams were struggling big time, and Gordon's patience was running thinner than a wafer. All the customers were left with was only bread and some fancy tableside entertainment. And just when he thought things couldn't get worse, our Risotto King pulled off a brilliant move. You won't believe what he did next.
In the mood, flick it, and then go back inside. What is this?
Sorry, chef.
Gordon was naturally delighted, with disgust. He went off on them, asking if they had any respect for the poor customers. And to top it off, our hero was caught on camera licking his tongue while Gordon gave him a piece of his mind. Ah, those darn habits. After multiple attempts and failures, including more overcooked lobster and scallops, Gordon couldn't take it anymore. He kicked the whole blue team out of the kitchen. Well, better luck next time, I guess. Our risotto prodigy found himself in the hot seat during the deliberation that night. And what did he say? He had the audacity to claim he had all the passion, attitude, and talent to stay in the competition. Well, guess what Gordon had to add to that?
You forgot fingers.
As expected, that marked the end of Navin's tenure in Hell's Kitchen. Well, I think Navin was just not thinking straight when he stuck his finger into the risotto. But how about throwing a chunk of meat into the oven just to keep it warm? Does that even work? Sadly, this little hack turned out to be a complete disaster. Melissa Fripo, the star of the show, was a contestant from season 3 who ranked in 7th place. She started off with some potential, but boy did she take a nosedive. Her attitude worsened with each service, and guess what? It affected her communication skills too. So Gordon threw a wedding planning challenge one fine day. Both teams had a measly budget of $100 to create appetizers, fish, and meat dishes. And they had a whopping 30 minutes to shop for ingredients. Now, the blue team was smart enough to avoid duck as their protein, but the genius Melissa from the red team suggested duck instead of lamb, because who needs logic and timing, right? Despite Jen Yamola's concerns, they decided to follow Melissa's brilliant idea. In the kitchen, Melissa took charge and bossed the red team around. Meanwhile, the blue team was cooking away happily. However, when Julia decided to sear the duck breast in the red kitchen, guess who butted in?
Sabran, ask me, Julia, if you have any questions.
All right.
And just for kicks, she insulted Bonnie and told Julia Williams not to listen to her. What was wrong with her?
Excuse me?
To add to the madness, when Julia removed the duck breast from the oven, Melissa thought it would be a brilliant idea to swoop in and save the day by putting it back in the oven to keep it warm. Well, you can imagine the tension that was created among the red team.
That you have a little bit of knowledge of how to cook. Otherwise, you shouldn't be here.
You knew how to cook too. I am a thug.
Julia and Melissa soon realized that the duck breast was overcooked. And what can I say but thanks, Melissa, for your genius moves once again. And of course, she refused to take any responsibility because why should she? That's when the argument erupted like a volcano.
We're done. I didn't make it overdone. Your job, your station. You stuck it back in the oven. Don't try it. I took it out.
After the cooking was finally over, Gordon asked if everyone had used their time wisely. And what do you know? This is what happened.
No, chef.
What?
Well, that certainly shocked Gordon, but don't worry, Bonnie had to spill the beans about the argument, and Julia wasted no time blaming Melissa for her dictatorship. Melissa, of course, argued back, claiming she couldn't do everything at once. But Gordon reminded her that he never asked her to be in charge, and the challenge was supposed to be a team effort. The judges for the evening were none other than the bride and groom themselves, and you have to watch what Melissa did next.
Oh dear, what's the matter?
Chef, I don't think that we should serve them our food.
Needless to say, Gordon wasn't too pleased with her antics. And when it was time to serve the meat dish, Melissa decided to play the hero once again and stop Jen from serving the duck breast. But this time, Gordon was pissed off completely. When the dish was revealed, it was a masterpiece. Just kidding, it was an overcooked duck breast with absolutely nothing else on the plate.
Right. Okay.
Gordon was beyond embarrassed. Since the duck breast was as tough as rubber, the red team's dish was disqualified, and the blue team claimed victory. But don't worry, Gordon didn't let the red team off the hook. He gave them a good scolding for their spectacularly awful performance. Well, at least Melissa tried to stop her team from the embarrassment they were about to face. But Jeff Lepoff was a league apart. This dude from season 1 was a terrible chef with zero teamwork skills. Throughout his time in Hell's Kitchen, all he did was complain, and when things didn't go his way, he simply quit. On the second day, Gordon wanted a successful dinner service after the disastrous first night. An hour and a half into the dinner service, the red team sent out all the appetizers and moved on to the entrees. However, Jeff's station at the garnish station had trouble focusing due to excruciating pain from a kidney stone. As a result, he failed to send the vegetables and forgot about the spinach, leaving Gordon frustrated. However, once Jeff managed to send up the spinach, it turned out to be burnt. Gordon was furious that Jeff was still attempting to pass off charred spinach. Instead of owning up to his mistake, Jeff made weak excuses. All Jeff had to do was start a new batch, but he tried to be sneaky. He thought he could hide the burnt spinach under the counter and use it later when Gordon was occupied with other contestants. However, Jeff didn't realize that Gordon was still watching and caught him in the act.
Sneak it in.
No, not at all, chef.
Throw it away then, you little.
This service was a mess right from the start, and it wasn't just Jeff who screwed up big time. Things got so bad that Gordon actually shut down both the kitchens for the night, and one customer ended up breaking an important rule. Take a look at what one frustrated customer did to satisfy his hunger.
I'm sorry. You can't.
What? Don't tell me I can't.
I'm sorry.
That was completely unacceptable. Gordon was beyond annoyed, not just with the contestants, but also with the customers. He had had enough. So these were the contestants who tested Gordon's patience by breaking some really important rules. But who knows, maybe there's some more contestants out there who are willing to take bigger risks just to secure a spot in the show in the future. Well, I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you did, don't forget to smack that like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And by the way, did you check out my latest video? What happens here is even crazy.